I know prior to taking your current position as e-resources and series librarian at Rollins, you worked as a collections consultant in Ingram Coots.
Yes.
Now owned by ProQuest.
Yes.
What was that transition like from that kind of environment to Rollins?
You know, I do miss things about working on the vendor side, but it was definitely the right decision at the right time, and I don't regret it ultimately. It's been a real educational experience in that there are a lot of things about the vendor world that I thought would be so different about getting back into the library that actually aren't all that different. But one thing that is different, that's a good thing, is there's definitely a difference in the stress level. And you know, working for a vendor is it's very high energy. You're on a lot of the time, and also if there was a crisis of some sort, it had much larger implications than maybe what it feels a bit like the tempest in the teapot at Rollins. It's a controlled environment, and it feels like I have more control over what I'm doing day to day. So there is a healthier work-life balance, but I wouldn't have traded that time at Coots for anything, because it was incredibly valuable and has lent itself very well to what I'm doing at Rollins now. But it is, as far as the transition though, it's kind of funny. It was hard to let go of some of those projects I'd worked on for 4 years. That were these really large ongoing projects. And then I found myself, even after I'd been at Rollins for a couple of months, I would get emails from librarians who had been, my customers before, saying, "Erin, I know you're not there anymore, but could you just let me know this one thing?"
Well, in some ways you've anticipated my next question, and that's to ask you what you learned in your experience in the private sector that you've been able to directly apply to your current job.
Oh, so much. I never knew how much, and I've only been at Rollins, it's less than 2 years now, but almost every day I find myself thankful and grateful that I had that vendor experience. I think that libraries who hire former vendors, and vice versa, vendors who hire librarians, you're getting a priceless asset there. And so some of the things they're sort of soft skills. I learned how to write a really concise professional email. I learned how to communicate with various stakeholders on campus in a way that they can understand. And I also learned how to communicate now from the other side of the table when I'm talking, because I do a lot of communication with vendors and publishers in my position at Rollins, and I think I'm better able to communicate with them now, knowing what I can expect from them, and also when to push back and when to kind of hold back. I also have no problem saying no. Now I'm really good at saying no. And a big one too is just public speaking. I can't tell you how much I learned about public speaking from working for a vendor. And I go to sessions now and I see that there really is a difference in not just knowing what you're talking about, but being able to really sell it, and that level of confidence. And selling yourself is a big one too. I just never knew before I started at Rollins how much of academic librarianship is selling yourself to stakeholders on campus, and this is not something they teach us in library school.
No,
it's really not.
Yeah, you were talking about the future of librarianship was a big concern in the hot topics. What draws someone like yourself, a young professional, into librarianship? What do you think the profession needs to do to remain vibrant and to continue to attract people like yourself to it?
I thought a lot about what really drew me to the profession, and the easy answer is, I was really good at doing research, and so I just, wanted to do that all the time. But that's not what it is. It's librarianship attracts a very certain kind of person who I think is hyper-organized, for one thing, and has that sort of realistic idea of what it takes to be organized and see a project through from beginning to end, and be somewhat positively obsessed with that. But then also, you have to kind of have the heart of an artist in a way. You have to have the soul of a dreamer and an idealist. And so librarianship almost seems like the last bastion of that, of being able to combine those qualities. And that's why librarians tend to be such unique people, and it attracts a very unique kind of person who can combine that idealism and realism. And so that's, I think, what ultimately attracted me to it. But as far as keeping it vibrant and attracting people who have that commitment and who have that heart, I think that we need to be doing a better job of marketing ourselves as activists, marketing ourselves as social activists and advocates for issues that don't just affect our local library, but affect access to information and freedom of information on a larger scale. I see it even among our students at Rollins. They are so passionate. They have so many really high-level ideas and convictions. And I hate to think that once you get out of school and you get into the profession, it becomes this tomb where that goes to die, where that ends up getting squashed or snuffed out. And so I think we need to be doing a better job of proving that it doesn't have to be that way, and that you can take those passions and those convictions and turn them into what you're doing on a day-to-day level in the library, because I genuinely believe that that's possible, and that's why I got into it. So I think we need to be doing maybe a better job of that in library school, being more realistic about what it's going to mean in your day-to-day life to translate that into your work. But also just being seen as partners in a lot of community building initiatives, that's really important. I mean, Rollins is such a great school for that, but I know there are, a lot of other schools who do that well too, but I think that would be a big attractor, people who are really into service at a core level.
Sort of falls back to what you were talking about originally in communication.
Yes, and selling ourselves too.
And being willing to collaborate and utilize resources on campus, reach out to other folks on campus to get their support and work with them, collaboration.
And to know how to present your ideas.
Well, too, I think that there's this big scare all the time, right? There's this alarmist idea of librarianship as, the sky is falling and we're powerless to stop it, and there's this rapid, technological shift, and we can't stop it. We shouldn't stop it, and we can't stop it. But what we need to do is be part of that shift. We need to be part of enacting that change instead of feeling like we're just helplessly swept along behind it, because it doesn't have to be that way. I also feel like librarianship is one of the few places where you could be what I like to call a high-functioning introvert and still make it successfully.
I like that phrase. Yeah. That's great.